Pet. Cool. Hey guys, welcome. Yowie, I'm so honored to have you guys. Do you guys want to do a quick hello each, introduce yourselves?
Hello, I'm Sean, the drummer.
Dan.
I am Jack Tickner,
Nice.
the
Okay.
guitar, one of the guitars.
Yes, you are. And then we're gonna circle way back to like some of the side project stuff for both of you guys later. But right now, I want to talk about the last time that Yowie and Fecking kind of spoke. Was sort of like a written Q&A during the Halloween season a few years ago for the Sounds to Make You Shudder EP,
Yeah.
which is like to this day almost difficult to listen to in its entirety. It's such a carnival of weird stuff. What was it like recording that? What was the situation behind that? I'm just curious about the background of that song.
So honestly, what happened was, so Skingraft came to us and said, "Hey, we want to do this." And like the idea was supposed to be, people of a certain age will remember that we used to have these like, for like kids' Halloween parties, they'd have like these records, and it would take you through different stuff. But usually at the beginning, it was always like some creaking door open and probably vaguely Eastern European accent guy, supposed to be vampiric or something like that, saying creepy stuff and like introducing the horrors that are about to come up or whatever. So they came to us and were like, hey, we really want to do this. We want you to essentially provide the music for this. And so we were kind of like, I'm not sure how to do that really, right? So like what happened was just David Yao recorded his part and then they sent it to us. And I like sat there and listened to it. I was like, I don't know if we're honestly the right people for this. Like it seems like this needs like some chains jangling and wind whistling and like a very creaky door kind of a sound, like sound effects behind it, not like precise, angular rock music or something. But then we started messing around with it, and I said, maybe what we need to do is not have it be that this is background music, but have it be that we are like a direct accompaniment to this recording with the precise cadence and everything with his
Uh,
voice. So I don't know if it even comes across, but like there's a lot of stuff where we like very purposefully like he takes a breath right there and I do a little like a simultaneous little thing with my hi-hat and we like have a during that rest this happens and we tried to make it to where we were a precise accompaniment of the specific recording of his voice, which was the only Yowie-ish way to approach this that we could think of.
ugh. And his voiceover is really grisly on that one.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like having that as one of the first tracks was so bold.
It's like
I
a
was
voice under.
Yeah, I was so true. Like definitely there's sub things going on. It's like he's embedded weird tones in his voice. Um, but so I guess that was the last time, and that wasn't that long ago if you really think about it. So how did what the musical framing of that song lead you to working with these nice young men you're working with right now?
Well, that was the thing is there was a period of time where I could not emotionally accept that Yowie would not be available for local shows emotionally. And so I was basically saying like, I think I want to do two lineups, right? And one will be able to play locally and have its own thing going on, and then another one will be not local. But the idea that, we will only be able to play every once in a while did feel like a lot to give up. And I really tried very hard to have it both ways, to have this lineup, which is fabulous, but also be able to play like local shows when good bands come through and stuff like that. And so there was simultaneous Yowification occurring at the time. Unfortunately, we could not get another local to do it, which is, part of the band's constant history is like,
Right.
yeah, can we get someone else to do this? And the answer is no after years of trying. Yeah.
You gotta have like a metal detector or something, and you're just like scanning people, waiting for you. So you're a true freak. You would be. It's
Yeah.
gonna be a hard vocabulary to teach, and you went into some detail about that in that interview with Conan's Protonic Reversal, where you're talking about how you guys kind of had to use non-traditional communication for a lot of these. I'd love to know a little more about what that looks like.
So, Daniel, do you want to take it from there? So Daniel
Yeah.
was the person who shepherded me, a Luddite, who also does not know how to read standard music notation through all of this very patiently.
Okay.
Yeah, so one thing was that I'm friends with Colin Marston, who's also like, a huge hero of mine. And him and Kevin had done a Gorguts, at least one or two albums with them by then, and that was all done kind of over the internet. At least the writing part was over the internet. So that's one thing. I knew it could be done from that.
Wow.
Um, and they didn't really write stuff down either, I don't think. So, just because it's so easy to record oneself, I knew that it wouldn't have to be like super high def, but just um it was really great. It made me wonder like why more bands don't just do it like that in a way, because we approached it really systematically. And there's still a lot of like emotion behind every decision. But we just you keep it really loose by having little short things, just little short things. And we made hundreds of them. And we filled a Google Drive with them. And we had to like pay for more Google storage space. And some of those still might make it to other stuff. And there are one or two things that got more completed that we didn't even use yet. But mostly once you're invested in something, you start just you're sending each other back and forth some stuff. Then you're gonna maybe the other person sends seven things of one thing you sent them, seven versions. Then you erase yourself. So you're just listening to drums and you start all over again from scratch. So by doing this, we didn't know where anything would go or like how many times something would happen. And then at first we didn't have the third voice either. That came later. We started doing this sort of three-way stuff and we worked different ways too. Um, where Jack had some like really fleshed out stuff where he knew a sequence that he wanted to do and we kind of wrote our parts along with that. So a couple of the tunes went that way.
Interesting.
But yeah, it's just starting small and sticking stuff together like clay. And it for this band, I think it worked out really well. If I was there in person, maybe a little harder to stay organized. Maybe like it's like what was that riff you played? Or like maybe you tape record it and you're like, the riff you played at 4 minutes and 29 seconds. But the way we did it, we named everything too. So
Right.
everything had like a goofy name associated with it. Then you would have like goofy name one, two, three, four, and five, to talk about. So it did make the communication a little easier, but still hard. Still like you talk differently when you're chatting than when you're in person. Some things are lost and some things are gained.
Right. And you both have, it seems like you both are very aware in terms of like Sean and Daniel, you're both very aware of the pros and cons of the situation where like remoteness
Yeah.
does allow, like you're saying, a little more focus where it needs to be. But also sometimes if you're looking for that secret third thing to pop up, it doesn't happen as quickly like that. And it can be more of a quality control thing that's hard to do in person because you're just vibing sometimes, hang out. Uh, and I definitely am familiar with some of those struggles. It's difficult to weigh them. But that being said, when with all these things being said, sorry, Jack, for you in particular, I was wondering, as you're learning what these guys are putting down, what's been put down by Yowie in the past, what's something that you learned about guitar maybe that you didn't know before, trying to make these noises and these sounds and these like more vocal effects than the average guitar player is putting down?
Whoa, that's a really good question. Because I feel like there's a lot of things that I picked up and learned about guitar. I want to kind of answer a bit vaguely. I feel like I learned spirit in terms of just like endless fiddling, you know? I can't really point to any specific technique or specific sound, but I can say that the endless meddling and poking and prodding and twisting is probably the thing that I learnt and took home with me the most. It's just this sense of it's never done.
That makes
There's
sense.
always more. You can be more antagonistic, add more, subtract more, shift more. Yeah, I feel like that's a key Yowie ingredient.
Did you bring stuff that you learned from past Yowie stuff? What was that? What did you
Sorry, that was just my
do?
what's
Oh,
it
it seemed
called?
way more
Yeah,
urgent.
it got stuck and it smashed the ground in a really loud way.
That's
Sorry, what was the question,
no
Michael?
problem. No problem. So did you take anything that you were learning from the older material to the newer material?
Um, I did in the beginning in regards to tuning, and then
Oh,
Daniel wrote this particular song, which actually didn't make it on the record. Maybe it will make it to another record in some twisted form, but and I had to retune my guitar to specifically hit like a sort of major chord, which is incredibly odd for Yowie, unless it's like two major chords in different keys on top of each other. But um, yeah, I had to mess with my initial tuning system. Um, yeah, so yeah, that's probably what I took the most. But yeah, just like all the nice good stuff that you come to love as an element of elements of Yowie is yeah, sort of building on everything else I've heard already.
that makes sense. Because honestly, I'm sure any of you, obviously, defense trader, Sean, you can throw down on this as well. But like every Yowie record has built on the last one, it feels like, with even though it's different people at different times, it feels like by the time we got to like synchro mysticism, it was like this is generally a vocabulary, and we're going to see if it can feel almost like a little more organic on that one. And this stuff on taking umbrage feels like to me it's a little bit heavier than that one. And I love that you mentioned that other interview you were super into Slayer as a child and jazz, and I hear so much of both, not necessarily taking elements from, but I do hear how someone who appreciates both of those things could ultimately come up with something like this. Would you guys say it's heavier?
Yeah, I think a lot of the past Yowie was pretty heavy, honestly. Maybe synchromysticism just had more of that like disco steady beat,
It has
but
something like
it had heavy parts too, though. And actually, we're planning to do one of the tunes from synchromysticism on this tour, so I've been practicing and remembering how heavy a couple of those parts are. But certainly, like a song we're not going to play, which I want to play someday, is the magnetospheric eternally collapsing object from their second album, and that's really heavy. And stuff from the first album is pretty heavy as well. So we wanted to incorporate that. It's not it's not heavy metal music, and
Right.
that music, nothing against it because I have a background in that kind of too, but it's full of cliches, that world.
Mhm.
It's almost nothing but cliches. And I know that an important factor of Yowie is the avoidance of cliche. So you can't go too far. You can't have a blast beat.
Right. But I mean,
And,
occasionally you can occasionally have a little bit of double kick groove there.
but well, yeah, it depends what you consider a blast beat, though. Um, so yeah, it's we try to include stuff from the past for sure.
Mhm.
Because I think speaking for Jack and myself, we're both huge fans of the bands, have been for a while.
Yeah. And I don't think anyone's like mistaking. Yowie at any point for not being a heavy, gross sound. Like no one's calling them a polite prog band. No one's calling them a easy to listen to situation. But yeah, it
Yeah.
was elements of a of like maybe more Dave Lombardo's drumming even on the on like shit Grim Grubber, the first one that we helped premiere. Like I was like, I hear a Dave Lombardo thing, or maybe you have a different Slayer drummer that comes to mind more consistently.
I got to meet him a
You
couple
hush your
times,
mouth, sir.
and I got to
There's a
share
few.
I got to share a stage with Mr. Lombardo one time. It was amazing. For and yeah, he's the coolest thing in Slayer. He's one of the
Understandable.
best
Yeah.
drummers in the world. He rules in Mr. Bungle, and
Yes, I forgot about that.
he's great.
Dan
That's great.
Tomas and stuff. So, we were talking about what blast beats are, and I think we need to go back to Derek Roddy's blast beat theory and start
Uh,
like citing chapter and verse. So in chapter 7 of Derek Roddy, I'm kidding. I'm not really going to go into that. I don't even know what it is exactly, but
I
I
appreciate.
have seen that he like did
Oh,
like a
it's
whole
when you don't.
thing where he's like, these are the different fundamental blast beats, and there's like
Oh
names for
yeah,
them and stuff like that, and he like
but they
goes
all
through them.
sound the same because what's really changing is what foot you're using at the time. But it's still.
Exactly.
But to me, a blast beat is when you don't when it doesn't matter what is happening, on top of it. So by that sense, we try to give you more. We try to give you, interconnectivity and
You, the listener.
listening to
Yeah.
each other. Yeah, having to really. It's not enough to just know the music. We have to listen to each other like constantly to make
Mm.
sure that it's right. That's part of it.
And I guess when you're so remote too at different times, that's going to present very different challenges. Like you were saying, like you could slow it down easier in the room, but sometimes that is like a different kind of practice where you don't end up practicing exactly what you could hone in on after some time to reflect and whatnot. But
It's
yeah, I
different.
mean, it's amazing to hear that you guys have come up with something so organically Yowie. Like it sounds to I think a lot of people how Yowie should be sounding at this point.
That's really great to hear. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, everyone that I've talked to, which isn't a ton of people who aren't already listening to it, but people. There have been a couple of new fans too, with Fecking Bahamas having like so much to do with what's happening, on like a monthly basis with a lot of bands that define different things. It's hard to feel like, do I know what math rock is? Do I know what prog is? Do I know what like because it seems like it shifts beneath your feet all the time. Sometimes it's a shitty thing to call a band. Sometimes it's the cool thing to call a band. It's difficult to juggle. But I just try to keep up with the cool sounds, and you always never let me down with that. But speaking of like kind of perception of the self and whatnot, um, apparently, the first record was supposed to be a demo, and it is now just known as like the first Yowie LP. Are your thoughts pretty different now, looking back at that, or are they relatively the same when you hear, the all those T songs, all those T words?
When you say, are the thoughts the same, like about its status as a demo or other stuff?
I guess like how you appreciate it, or now that more enough time has passed, like did you have hangups initially about it being a demo and like being, oh man, we should have done this different?
No, no. Because I couldn't believe the entire time that it was becoming an album. So I was just like, really? This is going to be a thing? So I still kind of can't believe it. It doesn't seem like it should have happened at any point, and it's like kind of fun and comical, and it's like the I will never stop being like amazed by this. Where like hopefully we'll have some kind of experience like this again, but like back in 2011 when we finally toured Europe the first time, like I was in Bratislava, Slovakia, and some guy came up who didn't speak English very much and was like, I've been, studying this album for years and I want to talk to you about on, track 3, how does this go? And I was like, it's like amazing to me that this stuff that I kind of put together that I didn't even really consider a band at the time, like has gotten out there and had a bit of an impact with people and means something to people. It's like truly amazing. So the fact that it's out and it is what it is, I'm very happy with. And The only thing I would say, I guess, maybe going back is I think we maybe could have done a little better job with the mixing and the mastering of it. And in fact, we will because it is going to be re-released maybe next year for vinyl with remixing and remastering. So
Excellent.
at the time, we just pirated some music software and taught ourselves how to mix, and that is not something one should teach oneself, I think.
Nicely done, though. I mean, it survived the test of time. Kids today that hear it have nothing to say about the production. They're just like, "Wow, that's weird, man."
I'm a little worried that when we make it sound like it is guys in a room playing guitars and drums, that it's going to somehow remove some of the magic or the mystique. So, like for instance, Jeremiah's guitar was the old beat up Epiphone that he borrowed from someone.
Oh, okay.
He did not have a guitar. He taught himself to play guitar for this band. So like that album was him teaching himself to play guitar. And it was this old beat up crappy thing. And we used that for the first two records. And then some really nice guy contacted us out of the blue and was like, "Hey, I build guitars. Let me build a guitar for you." And built this like very well put together guitar, and we couldn't record with it. Like it didn't sound like it should. Like it was too clean, I guess, is what it was. Like and the way he strung and tuned things, like I kept saying like instead of like a nasty, raunchy chord, it sounds like Ravi Shankar and Geezer Butler are jamming together at the same time, and that's
Okay.
just it's not working. So like we had to like go back and like it was like we need to play this on a shittier guitar for sure in order to get like the vibe. So I'm worried that that's going to happen with the first album when it's like, oh, you can really make out what's happening here, that it will maybe not be as terrifying or gross sounding in some ways.
It's always
I just want to,
example.
sorry, I just want to jump in. I've heard some of the refreshed cryptozoology, and it's not relaxing. It's not suddenly Kings of Leon. It's if anything far more frightening because you can hear everything in excruciating detail. Yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Oh,
Gotcha.
that makes my little black heart go pitter patter. Thank you.
Don't you worry, Sean.
I don't doubt it. And I think it is valid to be concerned about some of that though, because like with a lot of records, I was talking to the guy from Carbon about this recently, where the remastering process has changed a lot over the last few years, or it's at least gotten a lot more diverse. It can mean a lot of different things. Sometimes it was very simple and sometimes imperceptible. It's just like maybe a little volume lift. Other times it's too extreme of a glow up. And on all these things are just like it's not that it's bad. It's just that's almost a different record. Um, but speaking of all that, it seems to me like from someone that's kind of watched a very cryptic band almost sort of open up in the last couple of years as like maybe just has it been time passing? I'm not sure, but ultimately what I'm trying to say is like you've described not liking recording. Here we are with a new record. You have premiered like two or three songs kind of in a way that people don't usually do by showing the live version first. I was
Yep.
wondering how that works for you guys.
Damn it. You froze for just
Say
a
the last
second.
question again.
Yeah, you
Oh,
froze. Yeah, you
how
froze just a little bit. Last thing I heard was you really hate recording, I think. Something like that. Yeah.
but here we are with a new record. I just wanted to know how it feels to lead with the live versions of those songs.
Oh shit. Um, is that one for everybody? I think maybe it
Well,
is.
I mean, it could be for all of you. I think it's very cool and unique because not all, you can hear bands play a new song live. Maybe that's one thing, but to be like, hey, this is a new song, but it's a live version, I think almost demands more. And I was just wondering what that process was.
Almost every part is better now for me. But still it's okay for the recording because we took our time with the recording and made sure that it was what we wanted. But the live version, yeah, it'll be better now. From speaking for myself.
Yeah.
It's a
It
fun
was
thing.
jittery. I mean, we had just recorded the album and they were like, hurry up, let's play three shows. And and that was its own kind of adventure. How do you feel about that question, Jack?
I think I think as you said once, the live shows are the proof. Like because a lot of prog bands, and you know, it's not something I think is bad. I just think it's a fact. There's a lot of bands are the song is assembled in like a digital audio workstation completely, and the idea of playing everything sequentially is like frightening. But the live versions of the songs are kind of the proof that it can happen, and yeah, I'm pretty happy with how they sound. I think we sound yeah, pretty good. And I'm happy that we even managed to get enough live recordings because we only played 3 shows together, which is crazy to me.
And there were no plans at all to, release those live shows in any
No.
fashion. We knew they were getting recorded at one of them, but
Yeah.
Wow.
you know,
And now they're all over the place and more to come. Yeah. So, which is like interesting. Not always, I guess, the way we would like it, where it's like, hey, here we are. Let's see what it's like to play a show together or whatever. Oh, by the way, this is going on your permanent record. It
Yeah.
like would have been probably good for it to be like, a little farther down the path where, we worked out all the kinks or whatever. But it does have a very kind of authentic, raw, excitement that you can feel in the tracks. And so I'm happy about that always.
Yeah, and I mean there's even the live version on the split you guys just did with is it Piliquat?
Hoyt. Yep.
Yeah, Crazy Band that was also on that compilation as well.
Yeah.
They had one of my favorite, like that was one of the more atmospheric and kind of weird songs. I really liked that one. It was very cool to see you guys together again. Um, but so at this point, what was the most difficult song to record? If you guys feel the same, or maybe there was a different one for each of you.
yeah, I think
Um,
there is the second thing.
for me, it was the one where the computer crashed.
Oh,
You guys remember what song that was?
No, I don't. I don't.
Uh, I
Minor
think it might
detail.
have. Yeah, that was a moment. The computer crashing. But for me, I would say spiritually, and maybe I'm stealing someone else's here, but Lemon Stroganoff was difficult as a collective to record.
That's a polite way of saying that's my fault, I think.
Was it your fault? I don't remember. Maybe it was, but yeah, that was yeah, that was a time.
It was both of
Yeah.
our faults because there was a part that was not very crystallized. So,
Mm.
but
Yeah.
I for me definitely was the road to Gumbone, which I don't know if most of your uh listenership might not have heard yet, but that one it's just epic.
Yeah.
And I've made it a little hard on myself, but I can't wait to actually do it right on this tour and give it the justice that it deserves because it's a great
Justice for Gumbone. Justice for Gumbone.
album. And
Yeah.
Museum Fatigue is a bit of a knuckle buster for me as well.
Yeah. The Road to Gumbone has a whole lot of parts and it's a very long song. So, of course, you're just going to statistically be more likely to fuck it up live. But yeah, for me, it certainly was Lemon Stroganoff. And not to nerd out too much, but part of the issue there was there's a big chunk of the song that's in an irrational time signature.
It's a
Uh,
dotted 16th shows up and throws a
yeah,
wrench in the works. And it took us a while to define it. So that was part
yeah,
of the issue. And we were against a extreme time constraint.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
So
yes, yes.
extreme time constraint, and also everyone's different notation methods came out, and so it's just like, oh, so it's like this, and it's like, well, not really. It's actually kind of more like this, and it's like, well, what is a dotted semiquaver?
Oh my
What
God.
is it? It's like really like,
because the way it was written was through demoing back and forth, the process I described before. So it showed up very organically. So
hmm,
then later when you go to try to count something,
that's
it's
right.
not always so easy. So
It's true. I think of it like when you you hear like, wait, is that an eighth inch jack or a 3.5 millimeter jack? And you're like, well, those are those are not exactly the same actually, but we're gonna like call it the same or
Right.
whatever. And then there are some very specific situations where it's like, nope, that is not the right size. That's not the same size
That's
actually,
true.
right?
That's weird
Those
that
are
that's
both
true.
approximations, right? And and this is not a band, that's very particularly loose. So like getting things to hit exactly on when we're talking about like a very small difference that, by the way, the part calls for not accentuating. So it's just like a extra
It's no
tiny
big deal.
breath. Yeah. So yeah,
Just
that
normal.
so for two of us for sure that was the hardest one. But I think it was the hardest. I think it was hard for everyone watching me suffer through it.
The studio can be difficult sometimes, whether that's a studio in your home or a big nice place somewhere else.
Yeah.
Um, the thing's gonna stop recording here in a second. If you guys want to take us like a break, grab another coffee or something like that, I can stop the recording now, and then we can go to the other meeting.
Cool.
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 I'll be
I'll see
there
you
in just a
there.
second, but yeah, if you guys want to take a second, go ahead.
See you in a
When you
sec.
do. Thank you.
Yeah.